Hello, my name is Kristie Newborn. I chose to do my behavior change project on a intensive potty training intervention that was designed by Azrin and Fox in 1971, I think. Um, a lot of research has been done on this intervention, and it's modified based on the client or the participant that you're using it on. I chose to do this on a client that I named Alan. He was 4 years old when I started, had a birthday, so now he's 5. Alan had many of the behaviors needed for potty training in his repertoire, such as being able to pull his pants down, being able to pull his pants up. He needed some assistance with cutting the water on, but he could wash his hands and dry his hands. So that those behaviors we really didn't have to focus on a whole lot. So the intervention that we were focusing on was the success that he had with in-toileting. His in-toileting behavior was defined by being able to sit on the toilet and either urinate or have a bowel movement in the toilet, as well as having dry underwear prior to sitting on the toilet. Baseline data was performed by Alan's mother and one of his caretakers. Alan lives at home with a single mom and his sister. He has a younger sister. In this intervention, the baseline data that the other members took, they both had interverbal agreement at 100%, stating that when they wanted Alan to use the restroom, they would tell him it's time to use the restroom, and Alan refused or had tantrums, or if when they put him on there, he wouldn't use it. So baseline data was shown here that let's see if you can see that right there, that baseline 1, that Alan had did not have good behavior of using the restroom successfully. So as an intervention, I decided to do an ABAB and took baseline data, as well as an intervention data. Baseline was taken twice for 5 days, and then the intervention data, the first one was taken for 10 days, and then the last one was taken for 5 days. Alan, starting up the intervention, the initiation of the intervention, what I did was allowed Alan and myself and his mom or the caretaker looked on, where we was in the family home in the bathroom. We had toys that Alan likes to play with. We had laptops so he can watch videos. We had video modeling of children using the restroom, and we tried to make it as fun as possible for him while we were in the bathroom. So there was play time as well as intervention time in the restroom. Alan started out with me doing a great job right away to receive his reinforcers. The reinforcers that Alan chose was he loved balloons and he loved marshmallows. So in the assessment, a prior assessment that I had given to mom, those are the reinforcers that we came up with to use for the successful in toilet potty. So what took place was Alan and we played in the restroom, watched videos, did video modeling was shown to him. I talked him through it, and then I had a timer set. The timer was initially set for every 15 minutes, not knowing how frequently he would have to go. I also gave him an increased amount of fluid intake while we were there during downtime. So he was continuously drinking while we were playing. And I set the timer for 15 minutes. Once the timer went off, I had explained to him that it would be time for him to use the toilet. And our goal was to remain dry until, we get on the toilet. So the timer would go off 15 minutes and he would have a successful, for me, he had a success right away. I automatically gave him a tangible marshmallow, placed it in his mouth. He could do the other behaviors, the flushing, washing his hands, drying his hands, and then we started to play again. And after I took the data for a while and could see that the 15 minutes were possibly could go up to maybe 20 minutes, then we went up to 25 minutes, then went up to 30 minutes. And for the duration of the intervention, we were right at 30 to 40 minutes, unless he indicated. He had learned, I did not teach him to tell me at that point that he had to go. We were just basically going by the timer. And I would tell him potty. He's nonverbal, so he did not have that in his repertoire to tell me pottying yet. So, but what he initiated on his own was, if he had to go to the potty prior to the 15 or 30 minute mark or the timer going off, he would touch his pants in that area, and I would know that, okay, it's time to go to the potty. So he taught himself a behavior, or another behavior during this behavior plan to communicate when he had to go, and it was by touching in that area to indicate to an adult that he had to go. So I was very proud of him for being able to do that. As a result, this behavior intervention was very successful for him. He was able to do the intervention along with the baseline and the final intervention with much success. If you can see, this is the data taken for the first stage of the intervention, and he went from being able to go from 3 times per session. Then he went all the way, and the goal was for him to be able to go, since the sessions lasted, they were 2-hour sessions. I was at his home, and the goal was for him to at least go 5 times during that 2-hour frame, and he excelled that and went all the way up to maybe 8 times while I was there. His mother and caretaker also took data after I left, while he was up, and continued the training with him. And he also had the inter-zebra agreement, showed 100% with both myself and the parents and the caretaker. So with this being said, although it's time consuming, it was very intensive. I think it was well worth the effort that we put into the intervention for him. He is now totally potty trained, not only at home, but it has been generalized in other settings, in other places. We even, once the intervention was over, I would take him to the playground, take him to McDonald's or different places like that in the community to see if he would be able to maintain or generalize the intervention. And yes, he was. Yes, he is. And our goal, or his mom goal, when she asked me to do the intervention, was to get him potty trained before he started school next year. And thanks to this project, he is successfully potty trained. And I was very, very pleased with the outcome of the behavior. What I must say is my behavior change project went well. I was scored for some minor typing errors or spelling or something like that in names or whatever. But what I would say to everyone is that the date is very important. I was dinged heavily. I did not get a 0, but I was dinged heavily for putting a date in that I started collecting data on the behavior before the instructor gave me the permission to start the intervention. I read that in the syllabus, but I was thinking that because the parent had asked me to do that a few weeks prior to us doing this behavior change project, that I just assumed that it was okay for me to use this intervention since I had just started on there. But I was instructed by the instructor that maybe I should not have used this intervention because I started it even though it was a couple weeks prior, but I did start it before she approved that I could do this particular project. So needless to say, my client was successful. The behavior was successful. He is potty trained, so I feel very great about that. However, I did not do good on my paper because of the date. So be very critical and crucial of if they say not to start or use the date before it was approved. That is one suggestion that I give to everyone. Thanks a lot for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.